Yeah, I started. Is it audible to all of you? Is it audible now? Yeah, okay. Thank you then. So let us start. So today I am going to start with our predictive analytics, the first part. So before that, I'll give again the basics of introduction to this business analytics. Okay. So good morning. Let us start. Did they give these things in the last class? Mohan Sundaram or sir? Or has they started directly? They started there? Brief overview, similar like that. Okay. So as a part that is included here, what is the business analytics? You know that. Just I will brush up this slide. So analytics is the use of data, information technology, statistical analysis, quantitative methods, and mathematical or computer-based models. Okay, to help a manager gain improved insight about their business and operations. Okay, so that's what I was talking to you just now, and make a better and fact-based decision. So business analytics to use of the data, information, and statistical analysis. So that is most important. So what is the business analytics? Business analytics application and the management of customer relationships, you can use it. Financial and marketing activities, you can use. Supply chain management in the operations areas, you can use. Human resource planning, like in HR area, you can use it. Pricing decisions of the manufacturers in the companies and all, so etc., etc. In many ways, nowadays, we can use this business analytics in one or the other way. So importance of business analytics, there is a strong relationship of business analytics with profitability of business, okay, and revenue of business, shareholder return. So business analytics, when you employ it, when you apply that one for the data, the historical data of the company, so that will help the decision maker to make appropriate decisions at appropriate time. So in turn, that will increase the profitability of the business, revenue, business, etc. Obviously, any businessman interested to increase his profit, revenue. So only by changing the product or the method of marketing or anything will not help to increase the revenue. Correct. So one has to go with a suitable decision that can come. That means he should have a knowledge. He cannot rely only upon the experience or intuition. So he require the previous data, historical data, that is a kind of knowledge he will get it. What happened, okay, in the historical data when this much of price changed or when they made some certain changes, what was the outcome of that, etc. So using that data, further doing some analysis, so he can take a better decision. So that will increase his revenue and obviously the shareholder return, everything. So business analytics enhances the understanding of data. BA is a visit for business to remain a competitive. So nowadays is very important. In every field, if you take now, so there is a competition, any product. Okay. So to retain in the market, because we are seeing now, there are so many malls are there. People are crazy. Suppose they go to one mall today, okay. So and the next week they will go to some other mall. Okay, let us say that suppose there are nearby house, there are 2 or 3 grocery markets are there. So, you can ask, no, I'm recording. So the switchover pattern is there, no? See, suppose if you are making a purchase, for weekly requirement of your house. So let us say you are doing in a big bazaar. Now for the next week, where you will go? So big bazaar is interest is what? To retain you people. Okay, retain the customer. Whereas let us say that in the next one, the adjacent to that is the Reliance market is there. So their interest is what? To drag yours from there. So you may remain with the big bazaar, or you may move to Reliance market. Okay, that can happen at any point of time. That can happen at any point of time. That means maybe the first week only. First week you are buying. Second week you may switch over there. Okay, third week you may come back, or you may remain in the big bazaar only for so many weeks. Okay, after some time, let us say after 5 weeks or 6th week, you may switch over to the Reliance market. So this you can study, the pattern of changing, okay, customer behavior, the probability of moving to the next market in the coming weeks. So these things we can calculate. So what it gives when there is uncertainty, that means the probability, higher the probability means so the chances are high. So you are shifting to other market or remaining in the same market. So this will help the markets to take appropriate decisions. See, if they want to retain you, what they have to do? They have to give many more offers, or they must have a good database of you people. They have to follow you. That is the sense, okay, they are the regular customers. They must have some extra privileges. Correct. So how can I understand that one? That is possible when you have the data analysis. Okay. And there is a one such concept we can use for this one, switch over pattern, or even the banks nowadays. Okay, we are finding too many defaulters. So let us say that the credit will be given 1 month period, the time will be given, or 3 months or 6 months, etc. So suppose if the bank does not receive even for a 6 months or 1 year period, so they are going to be likely to be a defaulter. So they would like to find out. So different groups are there, whether they'll be able to repay within a 1 month period, 3 month period, or will they become a defaulter. So based on the previous data, by analyzing this, when they can take utmost care before giving a loan or any facility to the next customer. So this you can study in the form of a Markov analysis. There is a Markov process. So in the statistics, so that will help. So that's why, that means business analytics means all these things are included. But we are not able to study everything here in this classroom, like a Markov process, other things. But if you go through that later on in the books or etc., you'll get an idea. So that is again to study. So business analytics enhances understanding of data to remain a competitive in the market for a company, enables a criterion for informative reports. So evolution of business statistics, business analytics, how it has evolved. So first one is actually the statistics, the basics and all fundamentals earlier. Now they keep on adding so many different techniques. So it become a huge, a big, important subject nowadays. That is the statistics. Earlier it was because of the not much of development in technology. They were unable to handle the big data. Correct. So normally if you ask anybody what do you know in a statistics, they'll say that simply the table, mean, median, mode, etc. or standard deviation. So statistics does not stop there itself. So it will go further, and it has so many techniques are there to analyze the data, because we are getting nowadays not so simple data, complex data we are getting. In the organization, if you take, different data, they are maintaining everything, what time customers arrive to the mall, let us say that example, okay, what time they exit. So in between the movement, everything are recorded nowadays in many things, even in a bank or even in a supply chain management. So everything is recorded. When you get a huge data, refining that data and analysis, etc., manually is very difficult. So we have a technology. Because of that advancement in the technology, so many techniques are useful nowadays, and it has become a very big for data analytics. So that is a statistics. It is a big subject now. So related to the statistics, the next one is operations research. Okay, like what the sir is doing, a prescriptive approach, prescriptive analysis. So it is a part of operations research only. So we have the different models. Okay, it is not like a statistics. Statistics is a continuation, starting from one point, univariate data, bivariate, multivariate, step by step it goes. Whereas the operation research, they are the independent models. How to create a different decision model. Like it could be even a linear programming model or a transportation problem for minimizing the transportation cost, assignment model, how best we can assign the different employees or a different workers to different jobs in the organization, so that the total time taken by them or a total cost, okay, is minimized. And we can apply that to a different area like a airline crew assignment, like a trip schedule to minimize the layover time. So many things are there. Okay, the transportation, assignment, decision theory, queuing theory, waiting line model. So all this comes under the operations research. So the next one is the business intelligence nowadays. That is for forecasting technique. We have the artificial intelligence technique nowadays. Okay. So that is what. Then the decision support system also there. Like a machine learning is important now. Then that is a supporting system. So this is what the evolution of business statistics. Initially statistics, then added a operation research. Now the most popular is the business intelligence, artificial neural network, and then the decision support. Okay. So this is what the evolution. Scope of business analytics, fundamental descriptive data analytics. What it does. So descriptive uses the data to understand the past and present, like what the Mohan Sundaram sir is doing. So he is able to understand, like, okay, how to understand the univariate data through the graphical method. I think I briefed about this in the last class. And then the uncertainty, how to overcome the uncertainty, like how to calculate the probabilities. Then followed by the different distributions. What is the meaning of the distribution? Then the hypothesis testing, estimation, so many things. So that is what the descriptive analysis. Whereas the predictive analytics analyzes the past performance. Okay, so it will analyze the past performance. It will help you to forecast the future value. So we are developing a model. And prescriptive analysis uses the optimization technique. Like I give an example, like transportation problem. How best, okay, we can transport the items from different places to different destinations, such that the total cost is minimized. So objective is there to minimize. Whereas in a linear programming problem, okay, under the different setup, so how to maximize, okay, or minimize there also. So this is what you are learning in a prescriptive analysis, formulation and maximization, optimization technique totally. So descriptive analysis about the past, that I briefly have explained. So I have given the more data. You can go through the slides later if you want. Predictive analysis about the future. Based on the past data, we are trying to forecast. So we are developing a model. And prescriptive analysis provides advice based on the prediction. So you can go through that later. So this is one example I given, retail markdown decision. So this is an example, okay. That means every organization, this is some example I have taken. So when to reduce the price and by how much? See, for example, you will see that. So all these malls, so when they are going to reduce the price, that means you can see that one. Normally people are very tempted to see that, okay, offer of 40%, 30%, buy one, two, offer like that way. So you can see that one. Throughout the year they will not do. Okay. So only during certain time. So that means they know that when to do, when the people are free. Okay. So normally the sentiment of the people, many things they will consider. So when it comes to a festival season like a Yugadi festival now, okay, recently. So some malls, they will offer the discounts, etc. So that means the price variation they will make. So that to attract the customer. So otherwise, normally you can see that one during our Independence Day, Ganesha festival, etc. So all the brands, all the malls, okay, normally they will give the different varieties of a price variation. So the question is that when to reduce the price of the product. Okay, so some odd time if they do, it won't help. See, for example, now it is the examination season. For every house, they are busy with their children education. So they have the examination one or the other. So even if the malls keep the discount at this stage, they will not be able to go. So they cannot attract a large number of crowd. So that will help. This data analysis will help that, the question is that when to reduce the price and by how much. Descriptive analysis tells about what? Examine the historical data for similar products, like prices, units sold, advertising in the earlier case. So predictive analytics predict the sales based on the price variation. What was happened in the previous based on that. Prescriptive analysis for the same question answers, find the best set of pricing and advertising to maximize the sales revenue. So what makes the people to come to the mall? That means the advertising strategy has to be changed. Okay, it is not that simply if they spend the money on advertising, so the people may not get attracted. What they have to do, the effective advertising should be given. So That is what you are learning in a prescriptive analysis. The price variation, the advertising, fixing and all. So the same question, how the three different types of analytics will help, just I am giving with the help of example. The another example, this is actually the American example, Disneyland. So how these three again helpful. So data for a business analytics, collected facts and figures can be the data. Collection of a computer files containing the data. Nowadays, in most of the cases, you find computer files containing the data, or comes from the analyzing the data. Information comes from the analyzing the above types of data. So how to, examples of using the data in business. You can use the annual reports. Say for example, if it is a finance related, like a bank, okay, or companies. So obviously every company or every bank will come out with their annual report. So somebody can take that annual report and extract that ratios, data information, and they can do the analysis. That is a business analysis. Accounting audits of the company, that can be the data. Financial probability analysis, if somebody wants to do, again, he has to take the data from that. Economic trends, there will be a separate data. So marketing research, different magazines are available. One or the other organization have done the marketing research, okay, according to the requirement of their clients. So you can use that data for your analysis. Operations management performance, again, in OM area, human resources measurements, etc. These are the data. So the data uses business analytics. Metrics are used to quantify the performance. I think I have made it clear in the last class. There are 4 types of data: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So that interval and ratio data are nothing but a metric data. So measured or numerical values of matrices. Discrete metrics involve counting, like a time or not on a time, etc. That is what I explained. So when you take a matrix, again there are 2 types, continuous and discrete. So continuous matrix like measured in exact value, like a delivery time, within how many hours it took, how many minutes. Similarly, weight of the package. So you can measure it exactly. So it is a ratio data. Purchase price, again it is some price, it is again, it is not an interval scale, it is a ratio scale. So metric data is of both interval and the ratio. Look at this, some example of Excel file I have shown. Like customer ID, this is a nominal data. This is the first customer, second customer, third customer, etc. Whereas this region is again a location, not important. Then you can classify east, south, etc. This will help you to classify what percentage of people from east zone, south zone, west zone, etc. Payment again, the people are nowadays, whether they are using a credit card, debit card, or a cash payment. We can make some descriptive analysis, percentage-wise. What percentage of people doing the credit card payment or debit card payment, etc. Then transaction code, that is a reference to the company. No way you can use it directly. The source again, you can tell that this is the information I'm collecting from the web source or email, etc. The amount, this is a metric data. Okay, so this is a metric data. Product, it is a nominal data. What they are purchasing, DVD, book, something, etc. So it is a nominal data, 1, 2, 3, different time of the day, what time they are purchased. Again, it is a metric data. Okay, so this just is an example to show the type of data. So 4 types of data. There is categorical data, ordinal data, which I already explained in the last class. So I given, I think here only you can see that one. Whatever I explained, no, categorical, ratio data, etc. You can easily understand now. Categorical means there is a supplier name. So then order number categorical, item number is a categorical. Just a reference they have made. Item description is a categorical. But when it comes to item cost, quantity, cost per order, this is all the ratio data. Date is the interval data you can take. So arrival time, arrival date is also interval data. Okay, that I think already you have familiar with this one. So I will just skip these things. Interval data, ratio data, I already explained. So decision model. What is the meaning of the decision model? An abstraction or representation of a real system. Correct. That is what the model. So model of 2, 3 different types. So one is analog model. The another one is a mathematical model or a physical model. The one more physical model, like in a science, physics, chemistry, etc. They do the experiment, they develop a model, particularly in a physics or even in a life sciences, biology, etc. They will create. So that is one type of model, like a aeroplane. Okay. See, somebody wants to, particularly the young children, the small kids, they are very interested to know that how this aeroplane works. So it is very difficult to take them to the airport and showing that how does it work, etc. It is not possible. So what is the alternative? So make a real a model of that one and explain them. Okay. So that is what the meaning of a model. That means equivalent to a real aircraft. So they have to create one and they have to explain the children how is what, where the pilot will set the etc. That explain. So that is what the physical model, like traffic signal. So normally these young children, school children are very curious. How does it operate? So you cannot take them to that junction. So they can keep that, they can install that in somewhere in the park or some place available. Then they can make it more interesting to students to learn that one. So it is a physical model. Whereas here we are dealing with a mathematical model. So in statistics we are dealing with the data. So we don't come across the developing of a physical model, mathematical model. So an abstraction or a representation of a real system. It is equivalent to real system, idea or object. Then what it does, captures the most important features. So that model should have the important features. Can be written or a verbal description. So sometimes it is a verbal description and many times it can be a written description. A visual display. So it is a mathematical model only, a mathematical formula or a spreadsheet representation if you do, like demand for the product. So you can express in the form of an equation, how it demand varies with respect to price. When the price increases, what happens to demand? When the price decreases, etc. You can show that a kind of relationship that itself is a model. So decision models, we have form of a simple model. I think I give an example. The sales of a new produce, such as a first generation iPod or a 3D TV, often allows a common pattern. So sales might grow at an increasing rate over a time as a positive customer feedback spreads. That is obviously very, very happens nowadays. You can see that when you go to a smartphone nowadays, even though there are many brands, Oppo or Lenovo or very popular Vivo and all, but still now you can see that one that the MI phone, okay, that is spreading very fast. People are saying that nowadays that is the best, is equivalent to iPhone, etc. So people will tend to buy that one. So when the customer feedback increases, so obviously there will be a temptation, growth, increasing rate of growth. So that will become a S-shaped curve on the following slide. So a mathematical model of the S curve can be identified as like this. So this is a model. We are able to represent that S curve in this form, where S is a sales. Sales is shown in the form of a S shape. It is not a linear one. So T is the time. When time increases, the sales also increases, the remaining directly related. And E is the base of a natural logarithm, and A, B, and C are the constants. So this is a model. So how to develop this model? This is a mathematical model I assumed. Now I have to estimate this constant A, B, C from the given sample data. I cannot have the entire population data. Okay. So it is very difficult to study, to get that one and to study that one. Therefore, I'll depend on the sample data. So with the help of the sample data, we have to estimate. I'll explain that when I start with some model, how to estimate, and then we get this model that can be used for a future prediction. That means the sales, when the time changes, okay, with the base, so we can find the future value. This is what actually the sales model. So when the number of weeks increases, see, it is growing when the number of weeks increases. For a first week, 10 weeks, 30 weeks, etc. But after some time, after so many weeks, it becomes what? Saturated. Okay. So it is going as a flat. So there is no more increment, no more improvement in the sales when the number of weeks increases. Correct. See, certain brands are like that, you know. See, for example, if you take a household item like a prestige cooker. So prestige cooker nowadays everybody knows. So only for the something a new product comes to market equivalent to prestige or better than prestige. So this might happen over a period of time, like first week so many sales, second week. But prestige has reached. So it is beyond the doubt it has proved, and almost every house is having. So even when the number of weeks increases, okay, so each sales won't increase. It will be a rare, regular sales will be there of that prestige. So like that, this is an example I am just giving. So it is a decision model. So decision model is a model used to understand, analyze or facilitate a decision making. So that is what you have to understand. Why we require a decision model? To understand the data, so analysis of the data, and it will facilitate then decision making. Types of model input, like means when you go for developing a model, what is required? Data is required. We have to identify the variables, uncontrollable variables, and controllable variables. Uncontrollable variables are what? We have to find out. Then decision variables, there is a controllable variable. As I said, the demand, for demand, price is an independent variable. So there is a controllable variable. Price fixation is in the hand of manufacturer or a dealer. So when he increases or decreases the price, demand will accordingly increases or decreases. Apart from that, what are the other variables influences demand for the product? That we have to identify. They are called as uncontrollable variable. For example, the government policy like a taxation, okay, or the mood of the customer, correct? So utility of that product. So many things will matter which are uncontrollable. So that is how we have to when you go for developing a model. Types of model input: performance measures, behavioral measures. Both are there. Performance measures are nothing but the variables, what I said. Behavior, according to the like a government policy or some other policy, behavior that will also change. That also we are to be able to identify. So nature of decision model: inputs, data, uncontrollable variables, and decision variables. Decision model we are going to develop. Outputs is what? Measures of performance or behavior. So it will measure the performance or behavior of customer. So that's what the meaning. So this is an example, a sales promotional model. So in the grocery industry, managers typically need to know how best to use the pricing, coupons, and advertising strategies to influence the sales. So using a business analytics, a grocer can develop a model that predicts a sales using the price, coupons, and advertising. That means he can go with a simple linear regression model. So dependent variable, he can take it as a sale, and independent variables, you can take it as a three. There is a price, coupons, and advertising. So this is again a multivariate regression analysis. So you can use that one. So that is what the business analytics does. See, this is what the model written like sales. I'll explain that when I start with the regression model. Analyzing the decision model. So that is the most important. Identifying and applying an appropriate business analytics technique. So that a decision maker should know. Okay. So he cannot use a wrong model, a wrong technique to the data. According to the data available, so what is the best model to analyze the data? He should know very clearly. So typically involves the experimentation. Suppose if he is a new person, he should do some kind of experiment, or for expertise, he can do directly a suitable technique. A statistical analysis, machine learning, or a solution process. That means whether to do through the experimentation or whether to do through the statistical analysis, so or a machine learning, so or a solution process, that he should know. Much of this course is devoted to learning is a business analytics technique. So this is what is called the essentially business analytics. Okay. So that is what you are learning. So the overall in the business analytics. So if you get an idea of this, okay, this is what we are learning, and this is what we should be prepared for this in mind. Okay, we're going to learn. And the next part is there, I think, guided process of data. data mining and all. I think you can go through that. For any data analysis, first of all, you require a data, and you have to go for a data mining, is what is the meaning of data mining, and then the refining the data, coding of the data, etc. before doing the analysis. So there is some standard process is there. There is a cross industry standard process of data mining. CRISP DM we call it. So according to this method, that project has a life cycle consisting of 6 phases. Okay. So in the next slide. So note that the sequences are adaptive. Look at this diagram. So this is what the phase of the data mining. Okay. So business understanding, data preparation, model building, testing and evaluation, deployment. That means it goes like that way. Okay. So some of them are interlinked at this side and that side, again going back and then coming back. So this is what the data sources. So a business understanding first to be done, then the data understanding should be done. Because a person should know both. What is the business, what is the data? How we can relate the data to the current business of the company. That means in order to develop a model, so he has to go for data preparation according to the requirement of the business, and then he should go for developing a business model. So once the model is developed, what he has to do next? Testing and evaluation. So he cannot say that, okay, this is the best model I have prepared, that will give a very good result, forecasting. What you should do? You should go for testing and evaluating that model. Once that is done, then you can say that, okay, this is the best, this is the model, and that can be applied for business. That means to forecast the values. So this is what the circle. Voice is breaking. That is the same only, business intelligence and artificial intelligence. Business intelligence, nowadays we have a different method, different techniques for business intelligence. Not much difference. Is artificial intelligence a kind of business intelligence only. So that is what the 6 phases. Okay, I think the diagram itself is enough. So my idea is not to give the complete details of that one. I think this is enough. The 6 phases only explained here. Phase 1, phase 2, what to do, data preparation phase, and data preparation, a critical DM task. Data preparation is not so easy again. And then modeling phase, where you go for modeling using the data, what are the things you are supposed to do? Select and apply the appropriate modeling techniques. Calibrate the model setting to optimize the results. Often several different techniques may be applied for the same data mining problem, etc. So it depends upon what model, whether it's a regression model, logistic model, or some other model. So that is what is the phase 4, modeling phase. Or you may come out with some new different model also. Then the evaluation phase, as I said, you have to evaluate that model. And then finally the deployment. Once the model is created, and it can be applied to the business. Okay. So that is about the normally how much is the effort is required in business analytics. Okay, that is roughly, it is not an exact percentage, roughly business understanding is 5 to 15%. Okay, so because many times what happens, the businessman may be different and the statistical analysts are different. So whatever he requires to develop a model, so if you know that much of business understanding is sufficient. So 5 to 15% of business understanding is enough. Okay, allocation of effort, that means that much of percentage is enough to understand the business. Data understanding, again, that is also how much effort is required, 5 to 10% of data understanding. It won't take much of time. But data preparation takes a lot of time. So how much effort is required? Around 50 to 60% of effort is needed for data preparation, because data it will be in a vague form. So an analyst has to use the data according to his requirement. So the data preparation takes around 50 to 60% of effort. Then modeling again, because the statisticians will be knowing that the different models available. You can make here and there changes in the model if you want. So it will also don't take so much of time in understanding the data. So modeling is only effort is required 5 to 15% effort. Evaluation again that much. So deployment is finally only that much of effort is required to incorporate that in the real life in a business. So this is what, this is a personal experience. There is no standardness in this one. So rough first idea about this. Okay, so this is one case study you can go through afterwards. So that is improving the customer retention. Okay, so what are the reasons for attrition? Why are the patterns in customer attrition across a different tenure policy? How does the attrition rate changes by changing the factors? What is the probability of a customer to attire? So what channel or combination of channels will deliver the most conversion? So that means when you have the questions like this is what the business understanding, what they are looking for. Okay, so he tries to give the answer to this one through the data analysis. So this is what the objectives is, nothing but based on the questions you can develop the objectives. Data points to be considered for this one is what? Demographics you have to consider, income banding, so education categorized, age in entry, marital status. These are the demographic. Normally when you prepare a questionnaire to go for collecting the data, so one part in the initial part will be of a demography. Okay, person name, marital stages, age, other things, then income, etc. And finance and product behavior with respect to this example is the behavior, the annual premium equivalent, sum assured. So this is an example related to the insurance. Okay. So this is a model building related to insurance. I think, okay. So in the sector, annual premium equivalent, sum assured, premium payment term, policy term, product classification, etc. So data points considered. Then data, this one further continuation. Modeling based detail. Approach, target variable decision definition. Lapsation model, customer scoring, customer risk profiling, trends and factors. So many things, some example you can go through that later. So snapshot of the data also, property of analytical software we are taking. So this is what we have. So that is what the model building. And then the last part is what? The using of this SPSS and R, SAS, etc. So comparison. The different softwares are there. As I said that R is a free software. So if you have a good knowledge of statistics, you can usually use that R because it requires some commands, etc. Whereas SPSS is much user friendly. So even though if you don't remember the formulas and that, etc., everything is in a back end, it is already programmed. Just you should know how to operate, how to use. We are going to discuss that in our class now, SPSS. So SPSS is easy one to develop a model, you can prepare. And SAS, again, in the SAS what happens, even the verbal statements also you can convert it. See, it depends, you know. See, normally when you ask a customer, so customers will give the answer in the form of a sentence. Okay, so his experience, he will give it in the form of a sentence. How to convert it? If you ask a specific question, are you satisfied or you not satisfied, he will say. To what extent you are satisfied, he can able to say. Some other information if you try to extract, so he may give it in a verbal. How to analyze that verbal statement also. So there is a provision. To some extent we can do that one with the help of the SAS. So that is what I explained comparison, introduction, available packages nowadays, Excel, SPSS, Minitab, SAS, etc. Free softwares are LibreOffice and are this free software. Then what is used? Look at this one. That means highest use is the SPSS these days. Okay. So just a chart, just to give a overall input. So idea, SAS is a green to what level, data, other things are very low. So over a period of time from 95 to 2010, this is the data. So how they are using the number of Google Scholar hits for a each software. So that means the popularity of the software you can understand. Okay? Yes? Popularity of the software we are talking about. So SPS is a more popular to and easy to use for data analysis. So what is used is given. Given again that way. Prevent responses using a software. What is used? Job market, etc. Then Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel, you know that one. So this is a given. That is information about all these things. This is available even the network. Google also can find out. Minitab software, the one more. Then Minitab, what is the cost, what is the consequence, pros and cons of that Minitab software. So this is what the SPSS, which I am going to explain now. For the social sciences, SPSS means statistical package for the social sciences. So that is what the meaning SPSS. So SPSS architecture is like this way. Again, SPSS cost is what? In dollar from $1,000 to $12,000. That is at that time rate. Now it is again, you know that day by day everything increases. So expensive, that is what the con and the pro. So this is an expensive one. The individual is very difficult. Only the organization, the companies will buy that one. So that is a licensed version. Otherwise, at any time point, if they come to know the company is using our software without the knowledge of us, without purchasing, they'll put them in a bar, behind a bar. So that possibility is there. So, but for individual and all, we are using the cracked version, not adequate for modeling and cutting edge statistical analysis. Okay, many are possible. There are some limitations there. Highly pirated software and is available in almost all student laptops. They are installing it. And easy to learn and use, more powerful than Minitab, one of the most widely used statistical data, has a command line interface. This is what, in addition to menu driver, one of the most powerful statistical package. Then SAS, this is how the SAS will come. See, when you go for a SAS output, these are the programming of the SAS, whereas the SPSS, you have seen that one, chart moving from here, and these are the commands, this is the output are giving like this way. So, a study of SPS, SAS is required first, how to interpret the values, okay, where to look, then how to take the data from the output and how to interpret that. See, the SAS architecture is like this way. It is not so easy like SPSS. Data sources are there, and SAS service servers are there, and middle tier is there. Then the client, it goes like that way. So, I have given an idea about the SAS. So again, complicated pricing model. First year license fee so much is also expensive, very, very expensive, not user friendly. That is the most important. Unlike SPSS, steep learning curve is there, relatively poor graphic compared to SPSS and all. But widely accepted as a leader in statistical analysis and modeling, widely used in industry and academia, very powerful. Scripting language is good. And first statistical tool approved by FDA USA before the SPSS. Okay, so SAS is much older. So LibreOffice, pro cost, everything I given. This was the data for graphical structure, etc. Because of the advancement in the technology now, okay, so all these figures, all types of relation among the variables, everything can be done. So otherwise, a few years back, this wouldn't have been. So, or again, widely used, accepted industry again, careful, free and open source again, not user friendly. Okay, so you should have a thorough knowledge of statistics in order to use this R value, R. Recommendation, normally they recommend it to SPSS or SAS if you have a sufficient. Go to R, otherwise you can go to Excel also. So that is the overall picture of the business analytics. Got it? And this is related to Excel. I think you are familiar with the Excel. Have you done work on the Excel? This is about the learning the Excel. Okay. So there is a self-learning. Excel sheet, when you open the Excel sheet like a addition, subtraction, business, every day you're doing along with the MS Word. So this is for a new student, so it is given. So there's no meaning of learning the theory and all. How this Excel sheet appears, what is the meaning of this block, expanding that block, minimizing it, removing it, then how to bring the data, how to define the variable, and then where is the data analysis. So data is here. See, in Excel, what you have to do, you have to go to click the data. Once the data is there, go to data analysis. Then it will give the different commands like calculation of accounting, frequency table, univariate analysis, mean, standard deviation, then correlation, regression, whatever statistics, you can get it through the data analysis. Okay. So that's what. See, for example, this is one example. Then we can apply the Excel data analysis. We can do all those things. So this is about the Excel sheet. Okay. So that means Excel sheet will ask you like, range. So when you go for analyzing anything, so it will ask the data. Number one, number two, like suppose if you are taking this day column, then it is asking from where to where. So if you highlight this one and if you drag it down further, so that will automatically take, okay, data consisting from this row, second row to the 10th row, it will take, okay, wherever. Then you can go click and it will give the answer. So that data feeding is important. That's what I explained there. Selecting of the data, so in the Excel sheet. So this is for a new people, means those who want to do through the Excel. See, here we have this statistics. When you go to data analysis for menu dialog, you get a single factor analysis, two factor, regression, okay, descriptive statistic like a mean, median, mode, F test, pair test, histogram. You click appropriate tool you require for your data analysis, it will give the result. Okay. So many things can be done, as I said. Input range you have to give, output range where you require the output in the Excel sheet. All these things we are learning in the Excel sheet. Then the last part is what? Introduction to mathematical modeling. Okay. As I said, in a mathematical model, so any type a relationship, as I said, in a cost function, profit function, a cost function, a commerce in a common thing in a commerce. Okay. So how to define a cost profit function? Profit is nothing but the sales minus the cost. So that P is equal to S minus C. That is a cost function. So that is a simple model. How to determine the profit? Profit can be determined as the sale value, that value minus the cost involved in that. Similarly, that is what I explained here. The different models mean. So what is a mathematical model? I already explained. Mathematical model, types of models, So we are discussing only the mathematical model. Abstraction is abstractions of reality. And when you go for calculating the mathematical model, it is characterized by assumptions. What are that? As I said already, variables required, parameters, the unknown values in the model, functional form. Functional form may be linear, may be quadratic, may be exponential. Like one example I given, that sales here. So same thing like that. Look at this one. Suppose if you assume the relationship between the two variables y and x. Y is a dependent variable, x is an independent variable. So what is the relationship here? Directly, obviously y cannot be equal to x directly. Y is not equal to x. So y, how it is equal to x? Along with the two more unknown values, y is equal to a plus bx. It is a slope-intercept form. It is a usual simple mathematics term. So what is that a indicate? What is that b indicate? They are the unknown values in the equation. They are also known as parameters. Okay, in statistical language, the unknown constants are also known as parameters. And what is the functional form? The functional form is y is equal to a plus bx is a linear function form. So that is what they explain. So modeling process, We already understood little bit. So that is a real world data will be there. Simplification. Then predictives are explanations. You have to take that one, verification. Then the mathematical conclusions can be done. Model, then the analysis. See, it goes from here. Predictions or explanations. Then real world data we take. Then simplification of that data. Model is developed. Analysis carried out. Then the mathematical conclusions can be done. So types of mathematical models. Deterministic versus stochastic model. Deterministic model is what? Have no components that are inherently uncertain. Everything is known. That is, no parameters in the models are characterized by the probability distribution. Okay, no parameter is taken as a probability distribution as opposite to stochastic models. Whereas in a stochastic model, the parameters are considered as a variable, they will have the probability distribution. For example, if I take a previous example, in this model, if you assume that A and B are a variable, and if A follows some distribution, B follows some distribution, okay, then it becomes a stochastic model. But if you take A as a single value, B as a single value, they are calculated with the help of the sample data, then it is called the deterministic model. So that is what we are going to do initially, the regression analysis, deterministic model. Look at the example. For fixed array starting values, a deterministic model will always proceed the same result. A stochastic model will produce many different results depending on the actual values that the random variables take in each realization. So when you have the random variable, you are going to have a different values. Otherwise, in case of stochastic model. Static versus dynamic model. Static models are at equilibrium or steady state as opposite to dynamic models which change with respect to time. Steady state, the simple example is okay. So simple example for this steady state, the waiting line model. So one of the models we are going to learn in your prescriptive analysis, okay? Under the operation analysis research, as I said, the waiting line model, that is a queuing theory. So customers are coming to one place to take a service, then customers obviously were waiting in a queue. So when they need not wait, when the server is free, and if there are no customer waiting in the queue, so directly he can go to the counter and can collect take in the service. For example, in a bank. So bank opens at 9 o'clock, let us say. At 9:30 you are going. At 9:30 if no customer is there, nobody is waiting, and if the server, the cashier is free, he can directly go to the counter and he can take a service. Okay. But when there are many customers are already there in the counter, what will you have to do? You have to stand behind them, and when your turn comes, you have to go and you have to collect this. So this is what the basic nature of the waiting line model. So what is important in the waiting line model is that nowadays the time is very precious. Nobody wants to wait hours together for unnecessarily some simple work. Correct? So they would like to minimize the waiting line of a customer and the waiting time. So we have to calculate what is the average waiting time of customer at some fixed period time. So for example, if you are studying the queue behavior in the morning at 10 to 11 o'clock. So between 10 to 11 o'clock, normally we assume that the banks will be busy. So waiting time of a customer is more, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. So let us say that average waiting time is there. How to reduce the waiting time of a customer? Increase the server, open the more counters. But queue will not be there all the time. When you open many counters, so you have to recruit the many people. So that will be a burden on the management. They don't want to do that one. At the same time, they don't want to lose customers also, unnecessarily waiting, and they're feeling that too much of waiting, so let us not come to this place, etc. So they have to balance. Okay. So that is called the queuing theory, waiting line model. So anyhow, you are going to learn in detail about that one. When that will work? Waiting line model works only during the steady state. not during this transient state. Transient state means what? The initial stage of any system. So initial stage, lots of changes happen. Let us give that example only. Bank opening at what time? 9 o'clock. Okay. And the customers are, you know very well nowadays, the old age customers are, etc. They will be there in front of the gate or in front of the bank or in front of the counter much before the 9 o'clock. So when the customer comes, that when server comes, that means the cashier, whoever, the employee comes, he open the counter, he has to settle everything, and you will see that one, there is a huge crowd already. And what he will do, he start a process very fast. That means he wants to clear this customer. The customers once clear, then he'll get some relief time. Afterwards, he can attend the rest of the customers slowly. So the initial stage, whatever is there, that is called the transition period. That initial stage. Wherever you go, normally, when you go for catching the train. So we do that one exercise. We leave the house very late, or in between we don't get a vehicle, okay, transport for a auto or whatever. And then in between you may stuck in the traffic, whatever, and you will get into the train. So that initial stage, what happens, even though you already booked the ticket, you know that your bogie number and everything, we are tempted, okay, we rush there. So as if it immediately starts, even though it has enough time. That is what the human tendency, we do that. That is called the transient period. After some time, what happens? You will relax. So you will realize that, so this train will go and this will reach tomorrow morning only at this time, etc. So there is no chance of, so that period, whatever this, that is called an example for transient state. So if you study statistic models or at equilibrium or a steady state, like what I said, the waiting line model or, suppose if that also in a dynamic, then it becomes a dynamic model. So when the time changes, if the model also changes over a period of time, then it becomes a dynamic model. Otherwise, it is the equilibrium or a static model. So what you are learning in a queuing theory later on, so that is a static model. Okay, so this is what the mathematical model. Choosing a mathematical model, that again depends on the data you are going to use, what data, what type of model you require, etc. So model selection strategies to use when given a table of data. The very simple one is what? Suppose if you want to find the relationship between the two variables, like example between the demand, price and other things. So what is a simple way? First you can plot the scatter plot. The sample data is there, draw the graph, that graph will show the coordinate point, some kind of relationship. So through that you can get an idea, yes. So the relationship is a moving upward, whether the linear or a non-linear. So accordingly, you can choose a suitable model for your data. Okay, linear model or a non-linear model, I given an example. So that is what choosing a mathematical model. Look at this one. Linear model means nothing but what? Y is equal to a plus bx. Slope intercept form is a linear. Whereas if you take a quadratic model, ax squared plus bx plus c or a plus bx plus cx squared, one and the same, is a parabolic curve. What does it mean? Linear means it will keep either increasing or decreasing. Okay. So it depends on the slope value, increasing or decreasing. If the slope is positive, you can get an increasing line. If the slope is negative, you will get a decreasing line. But quadratic is not like that one. It will go up to certain extent increasing, then suddenly take a U-turn. Okay, it will come down. So that is a parabolic shape. So it is a non-linear. Or you can go for a cubic model. You can go for a quartic, like the exponential, logarithm, logistic model, etc. When to choose the model? Yes. Any doubt? Anything to be? So which model to choose is important again. It depends on the data again, as I said. It depends on the data. Okay, sorry. It depends upon, yes, data, whether the data is showing a linear format. So it's better to go with a linear model. If the data is showing in a something, not a linear one, so increasing and decreasing, etc., oscillating, you can go the parabolic. If it's data showing an exponential increase, like a 2 becoming 4, 4 becoming 8, 8 becoming 16, double like that way. So it is an exponential growth, very fast. Then you can choose the exponential curve. So like that we have to choose a different mathematical model for the given data. Okay. So that is the next stage. Example I given. See, this is the year since 1995. This is a movie ticket. So what was the movie ticket during that period and now? Now nobody will give. This is a very old data. Okay, 5 rupees and all. So okay. So what is the, if you want to predict after some time, so what is going to be the movie ticket price? So we have to see whether the growth is exponential or linear. It is almost a linear, a constant increase, small increase you can observe. So you can think about the first model, linear model, to address this issue. So this is what the forecasting the movie ticket price is, almost a linear, moving upward. Okay. So you can use a linear model to forecast the movie ticket price. This is an example continuation. Example to another one, mathematical model to forecast a Coca-Cola production per company. So let us say that in 2001, the annual report, the Coca company reported the following information. So based on this information, you have to go for developing a model. So what is the suitable equation for that? That means the volume of trade. Okay, that is the V of T. The number of years since the end of 2001. This is what I have taken. So this is exponential. It is going very fast. The sales of this Coca-Cola. So they are choosing that the suitable model is a exponential model, A into B to the power of T. With respect to time, T, there is an increase in the volume of trade of that Coca-Cola. So they are using the appropriate model. So an example. Okay. So we have the different models are there. Linear, exponential. What does it mean like this way? Logistic, quadratic, cubic, etc. Okay. So this is about the different models for our business analytics data, particularly predictive analytics. When it comes, it is a different models you have to use. So now let us start a very simple, very first one, that is a correlation and regression. So the model creation starts from the two variable study only. For univariate study, univariate, what we can do? We can show only the descriptive analysis we can do, like representing in the form of diagrams, bar chart, okay, or pie chart. Then basic, like analysis, averages, standard deviation. So all those things you can understand, frequency table. So that is for univariate data. When the bivariate data is there, the first and foremost, before going to develop a model, you have to understand model is possible when you find some relationship between the variables. When you assume that there is a relationship. So now we have to check, is there any relationship first of all? So let me take the same example, simple one. So y is one variable is what? The sale. Okay. The another variable is what? The advertising expenditure of the company. Any product, some sales. So nowadays no product except the essential commodities. Okay. All other product nowadays you can find the advertising only to promote their product. Even for a salt also, even though the salt is a very essential, you can see that one. There is again the variety of salt. Just they want to increase their, say, Tata salt, some other salt, etc. But other commodities, you don't get so much of advertisement because they are regular commodities, they are required. Whereas if you take the other like commodities or electronic items or cosmetic items, etc., they cannot run the show without any advertising. Okay, people will not be knowing whether several brands are there. So sales of one product depending on the advertising expenditure of the company. So generally what we know through our economics knowledge or business knowledge, when the company spends more of advertising, it will try to reach the customer or public. So there in turn they will get a good sales of that product. So there is a relationship. But that is a general idea. When you're looking into these two variables, one is the demand or a sale, the another one is advertising expenditure. With our knowledge we are trying. But is it true? What is our assumption? Are they really related? We don't know. What do you have to do? We have to take some sample data. We cannot study the complete population. We have to take some sample data. In the earlier different cases, how much was the expenditure on advertisement by the same company? And in return, what was the sale? What was the effect of an advertisement? They should be able to have, you should have a data. So in the previous 10 earlier cases, the advertisement expenditure of the company, corresponding sales. Suppose if you go for only one particular company over a period of time, that is called a longitudinal study. You are making a study on just one particular company, their advertising expenditure and sales. So over a period of time, that is a longitudinal study. Suppose if you don't want that one, if you want to see that the different companies, their expenditure, advertising on expenditure on advertising, their sales of their company. Maybe the same product, but different brands. Let us say that the mobile phone. Different products are there, product is same, different models are there, different brands are there. So every brand, every company is spending the money on advertising in one or the other way. So what is the return? That is a cross-sectional data. So different brands, different advertising expenditure, different revenue. Okay, that is a cross-sectional. So you can take, however, whether the cross-sectional data or you can take a longitudinal data, doesn't matter. So you can take that data and you would like to study. You are taking a sample for 10 companies you are taking, or one company for a 10 periods you are taking. And with the help of the 10 small data, we have to find out the relationship between them. And what type of relationship? Means, suppose if the advertising expenditure increases, will it increases the sales also? Will it increases the revenue also? So that we can study, that is called the correlation. So correlation is nothing but what? The relationship between the two variables or more than two variables. So for your study, if you involve only two variables, then it is called a simple correlation. If it is more than two variables, then it becomes multiple correlation. That is what you already studied in QM. Okay, so simple correlation and a multiple correlation. How to identify whether there is a correlation or not between the two variables when you have the sample data? The simple example is plotting the values on a graph. That is called a scatter plot. So through the scatter plot, you can assess the relationship between the two variables. What will be the direction of the relationship, positive or negative? Again, you can also check with the graph. Suppose the points coordinate values that shows a positive upward movement. So it is an indication of positive relationship. That means there are two types of relationship, positive and negative. So positive means what? Both the variables deviating in the same direction. Whereas like a supply and demand. When the supply increases, demand also increases. Okay. So that is what the simple example. Opposite relationship, you can take the price and demand. When the price increases, the demand decreases. When the price decreases, the demand increases. So the inverse relationship. Correct. So if the variable move in the same direction, they are said to be positively correlated. The opposite direction said to be negatively correlated. So two types of correlation. How to understand that one? Through the graph. That is scatter plot is the first simple method. Positive, negative and no correlation. Okay. The next one is what? This is an example. That means we would like to test, suppose, correlation only, we can check that one. What correlation we are trying to find out? Good, interesting hypothesis or interesting examples we can call. Good looking couples are more likely to have a girl child. Is it true or what? Good looking means what? Is there any criteria to define the good looking? Anyhow, there is a hypothesis. Normally we feel, see, when you look at the celebrities, we say that, so if they make pair, they can have a very good, beautiful child. Okay, so that was the human tendency, we try to. So that is what we are learning. Is there any relationship? We have to find out. So what do we have to do? We have to take a study. We have to take some known people or celebrities or some pairs. They are good looking in some matters. Maybe physical intelligence, good looking only. It is not a intelligence it comes. So the physical appearance of them, the facial appearance. So we can check the relationship. Women use a camera phone more than men. Okay, yes or no? So most of the time, no, one or the other way. So we can check. Left-handed men earn more money. We don't know. So when you have the sample data, we can find out. That means we are finding that relationship, a hypothesis. Smokers are a better salespeople. Salespeople, they categorize it. One, they travel extensively to many places, and normally in between to relief and all, they'll use the smoking habit. They'll develop it. So more the smoking, maybe, but of course, more the smoking is too dangerous then. That is the next stage, but initially. So those who whistle at a workplace are more efficient. So different funny examples we can take are a hypothesis to find the relationship. Not necessarily the marketing examples only all the time. So that is about the correlation. Okay, I can study that one. I will show that through the SPSS later, how to calculate the correlation in the SPSS. So the correlation value is simply a numerical value. That means it will not have any units. Final answer is normally indicated by the letter R. R is the value, that is the interpretation as a correlation coefficient. We have the different methods are there. For ratio data, interval data, we have the Carl Pearson's method, one formula. Suppose if you have the ordinal data, rank order data, we have the another method called as a Spearman's rank correlation method. You must have studied in your QMM, or if you go through the book also will come to know. So, but anyhow, both of them is to help to measure the relationship between the two variables. How to interpret that value? Higher the value of R means closer to 1. 1 means exact correlation, perfect correlation. Closer to 1 indicates high degree of positive correlation. That means if the X increases, the same amount Y also increases. Okay, both will move in the same direction. That is what the meaning of positive correlation. Similarly, suppose if you get R value very close to -1, exactly -1 is a negative perfect correlation. Close to -1 means high degree of negative correlation, like price and demand. Whatever the price, that percentage increases, the same percentage or even more than that will decrease in the sales or in a demand. So that is what the meaning of the inverse relationship. So you cannot express in the units, the correlation coefficient value. Reason is, when you are talking about the relationship between the two variables, these two variables need not be of the same units. If they have the same units, no problem. For example, if you want to find out the student's performance, okay, so between the two subjects, let us say that the one is a mathematics and statistics. Simple example. Statistics is a part of mathematics only. If a student is good in mathematics, like initial calculation, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, is very good in that number, then he can easily do the statistics also. Not so difficult. So higher the marks he has scored in mathematics, tells that his marks should be more in statistics also. They are positively correlated. But these marks of both in two subjects are measured in the same thing, like a marks only. Marks in stats, marks in mathematics. Units are same, no problem. But if you take a two different variable, let us say that between the heights and weights of the students, what we can say, higher the, taller the person, weighing more. Correct? So forget about other conditions. So just generally two variables only. Taller the person, the higher the weight. So height measured in some unit, let us say in centimeters, weight measured in kilograms or pounds. So using these two variables together, we are finding the one answer. How do you represent that value? It cannot have any unit. So obvious, that is why the R, that is the representation of the relationship, is independent of units. So there is no units to measure. Only based on the numerical value, we can say that they are highly positively correlated or negatively correlated. So that is what the correlation. So correlation initially to know the relationship between the two variables. Now the question starts, model building. Having known that the two variables are correlated, okay, that is related, then we are interested to know that to how far the one variable influences the other variable, like in a price and demand. So how much vary in a price will vary the demand, means either it is increasing or decreasing, how much it will influence, so that it will help the decision maker to fix the price of his product or his company's product. He can able to vary the price. For this price, this could be the possible sales. For this price, this is possible, and they can also calculate the corresponding profit. Based on that, they can go for fixing the price of the product. Correct? So how it influences, you would like to know. Similarly, in advertising expenditure, the advertising expenditure, how much to spend on advertising? So suppose the company spends so much on advertisement, then what is the likely sale of that product? So we can find out. So for that, what we can do, we must express that relationship between the two variables in a functional form. So what is that functional form? So initially we assume that it is a linear form. The linear form is nothing but what we can say that y is equal to a plus bx. So y is equal to a plus bx is a simple linear format, linear form. So where y is taken as a dependent variable, correct? So y is known as dependent variable. It is also known as predicted variable. Predicted. Different terminologies when you use the different books. So y is known as a dependent variable is a general, ordinary word. Otherwise, you can use a predicted variable, or you can use a explained variable, or you can use a regressed variable. So different terminologies we have: dependent, predicted, explained, regressed. Everything is same. How we are predicting, or how the dependent variable is calculated with the help of the influence of the independent variable. That independent variables are known as predictors. They will help to predict the value of the variable. Therefore, they are also known as a predictor. Independent variable known as a predictor or regressor or explanatory variable. So again, different terminology which explains. Therefore, explanatory variable. So predictor, regressor or explanatory variable, other names for independent variable. So here I have taken an example. Why do we require a regression? So regression is nothing but literal meaning stepping backward. Okay, but here it is not like that. Here is nothing but it indicates the average relationship between the two variables. It is a mathematical measure to explain the average relationship on an average. Suppose if this much change happened in the price, on an average, what is the possible sale? So it is a mathematical measure of average relationship. So why do we require a regression? That is what I give an example. Company would like to know about the factors that have a significant impact on their key performance indicators. Okay, so what is the key performance indicators? What is the key performance? Performance of whom? Performance of a business. In other words, performance of an employee. Performance of employee depends on what? depend upon so many things, his motivation, his salary structure, atmosphere given, ambient, so many things influences. Unless he feels that his own institution, unless he is comfortable in that, he cannot work. Obviously, he cannot produce. So his production rate will not be effective. So that is important. What is the key performance of indicator? So for that we can develop a relationship, a mathematical model. So regression helps to create a new hypothesis that may assist the companies to improve their performance. So the regression analysis. So regression is a tool for finding the existence of an associated relationship, what I said so far, between the one variable and many variables. Again, if you take only two variables, one dependent, one independent, it is a simple linear regression. But when you take a many independent variable like x1, x2, etc., that is the demand depending on the price, quality of the product, utility of the product, okay, brand name, etc., then it becomes multiple linear. So the relationship can be linear or non-linear. You know already the difference between that. And here we are discussing only the linear model. This is what I already explained. Dependent, independent, explanatory, etc. I'll skip this one. Where the regression is used. Regression is used in everywhere. It's the most commonly used model in our business. In finance, you can use it. In marketing, you can use it. In operations. I give an example. The capital asset pricing model, you can use this as a regression model. Non-performing assets, to predict that one, you can use a regression model. Probability of a defaulter, you can use a regression model. Chance of bankruptcy, credit risk, etc. You can develop a regression model. How a person become a bankrupt? What are the reasons? So we can define. If so and so certain things happen, that person or a businessman may become in future a bankrupt. Okay. So, or a defaulter, credit risk. If these are the things may happen, so these influences to a person or a company to become a credit risk or a defaulter to the bank. So we can develop a model. Similarly, in marketing, very simple. Many times you have seen that the usual example I have been giving, that is sales, market share, customer satisfaction, customer churn, customer retention, customer lifetime value, etc. We can use a linear regression. In operations, to manage the inventory, productivity, efficiency, we can use job satisfaction, attrition in case of HR. So that means in all functional areas of management, like in a finance, marketing, operations, and HR, we can use a regression for developing a model, whether it's a simple or a multiple. Initially, we start with simple linear model. So the main purpose of regression is to predict the value of the dependent variable given the values of independent variable. That is what, again, example I have given. Business, some more examples, like how do wages of employees depend on years of experience, years of education, and gender. See, in any company when they go for joining age, normally the fixation of salary depends on mainly two things. That is what? Experience of that person, how many years of experience, and the qualification, whether that person is a right suit to his job or not. And the third important, there is a gender. Okay, even though the person is the same efficient, both male and female, both experience, same experience, number of years of experience, and then the same education qualification, but still, when you go for a salary fixation, so there is a bias in our society. Correct? So the ladies are blessed by, unless it is a government, private and many places, even now it happens. Like a bias, the gender has a role. So to the male employee, so much salary. If it is a female for the same job, this is the salary. So lot of studies are going on that one. Why that gender bias? That's why everywhere debate you see, no, we are equally qualified, we are equally experienced, everything, but still why there is a differences in our salary or in our wage structure. So there are so many reasons earlier. It is a still debating question. Depending upon the sample data, you can think about using the model for that. How does the current price of a stock depend on its past values? Any company's market value now, current and past values of the market index. How does the company's current sales level depend on its current and past advertising levels? Advertising levels of its competitors also matter. The company's own past sales levels, the general level of the mood of the market, so many things. So we can develop a model. All these things will help a manufacturer or a decision maker. Suppose if you don't have that model to explain all these facts, you cannot take appropriate decision. The decision based upon the outcome of all these things. So like this way, I have given many examples. You can go through that later. Okay, work conflict, work exhaustion and working movement depends on a perceived workload, work-family conflict, turnover intention, the job autonomy in the organization. We can develop a model. How that influences nowadays is a very important, that work conflict. So we can develop a model. Then similarly in case of finance, what loans likely to result in a loss, how to identify a most profitable customer, so many things. So these are the examples. Then simple, you know already, multiple is more than one. Now we have to understand the two types of model. Model, mathematical model means exact relationship. Like y is equal to beta naught plus beta 1x. This is a general. Why I am using the beta naught and beta 1? I'll explain at this stage only. Whether I use this model, normally I don't use. This is a mathematical model. Statistics model is this one, where E is an error term. Apart from the effect of this X, there is something else is there that influences the Y. There's something else what is served in statistics is an error. Okay, that is known as the error value. So that is a disturbance term. Here it is not like. There is a difference between the mathematical relationship and the statistical. Why I am using the standard symbol called the beta naught, beta 1, etc. Most of the books also use that one. See, all these models related to population. For example, demand and price. I am not taking initially the sample data. As a whole, demand for that company product based on the price of that product. Okay. So for this demand and price, I explained for an entire population. But I am studying later how this price of the product influences the demand of the product based on some sample data. Like means I'll go to customer, I'll find out, let us say take one mobile phone, whether he would like to purchase the product or not. What is his priority? Suppose the price is the priority. So what is his band width? That means the range width. Okay, to what level this commodity, this brand he would like to purchase. Suppose company offers between 10,000 to 15,000. Suppose if it is beyond 15,000, he don't want to buy. So I will take the data. So I will take the data of not all the customers. I will take only the sample data. So I need to estimate this beta naught and beta 1 value which influences the Y value from the sample data. But the model is written for the entire population. Therefore, initially, we write the regression model as beta naught plus beta 1x. Okay? Plus epsilon term, that is called the error term. So its estimator later on defined by beta naught cap, beta 1 cap. That means, what is the difference between the estimator and the actual value? I think I have explained in the last class. So beta naught or beta 1 is a population parameter. Its estimators are their cap values. Okay. What is the estimator? We don't have the population parameter value. They are replaced by their estimator, means based on the sample information what we have calculated. They are called an estimator. In other words, we assume that there is no significant difference between this parameter of the population and the estimator of this one, estimated from the sample data. That means the sample data, whatever you have calculated beta 1 cap, it is almost equal to beta 1. That's what we are assumption. May be true, may not be true. That is why they are called an estimator. So we have to estimate. So we don't know the population parameter values. They are replaced by their estimator, estimated, calculated from the sample data. Okay. So, as I said differently, let us understand in detail, because simple linear regression, variable x and y has a linear relationship. That is what the assumption, that is the assumption of the word. Then this is a minimizes the SSE, that is called the fitting a model. So we are assuming that the price and demand in the form of y is equal to a plus b, sorry, beta naught plus beta 1 x. X is an independent variable, y is a dependent variable, that is our sales. X is advertising expenditure. Okay. Plus error term. Now I have to fit this model. Fitting means what? For the population, I have defined the model, but I don't have the population data. So with the help of the sample data, I have to write the population equation. So that is called the fitting of a model. In other words, fitting a model is nothing but estimation or calculation of beta naught and beta 1 from the sample data. So calculation of beta naught and beta 1 from the sample data. So that is what is called a fitting of a model. Developing a model or fitting a model is nothing but this one. So once we have that, okay, then what we have to do with the help of that model? We have to validate that model. What is the meaning of that validating the model? Is this model is really good in predicting the value of y when x is given? Will it explain the value of y as we required or as per the requirement of the data, as per the study for the values of x? So that is what we have to study. That means if x is really related to y, we have to check. How to check that one? With the help of this associated coefficient. This is called the beta 1 is a coefficient. So now we have to check beta 1. We have to test that value of beta 1. That means is it statistically significant? Is it statistically significant? We have to do the hypothesis testing of that. So first we have to assume the linear relationship, that is the assumption of the word. Then we have to fit a model with the help of the sample data. Then we have to go for validating the model by checking, by testing the hypothesis of this coefficient. Finally, once you validate the model, they can using that model, we can go for future prediction of y for the given value of x. Predicting the y when go for x. Only points if you want you can note down. Don't go for because slides are available to you. Okay. Follow all of you. Any question? Continuously I am only talking. From 1.5 hours. So can you give some water? I think these people are not kept. That's yesterday's water. Thank you. Any doubt? Lots of doubts or no doubt? Are you able to follow? Real life? I didn't get it. All these examples, whatever I am giving is a real life examples only. We'll take some data. I am showing it. It is not theory. I am showing that some data we am taking. Then how to fit a model, etc. to the SPSS and all, I'll do it. How to validate a model, how to test, etc. I'll show it. For any data you come across in real life in your organization only, you can use that one. You can try that one. First I am writing. Theory I am explaining. See, here in your EPGDM class, because the students are there and online also, we don't have a procedure, method, rightly, neatly writing in the board. Otherwise, I would have written everything. So we are making a slide. And unless I make you understand all these things, difficult for me to go to next level. That means a SPSS. Following? So we are talking a very simple regression model. Nothing else. So we assume the model, we test that model with the help of the sample data, and we can use that model for the future. Now, that's some question. What is the question? Follow? So this is what the linear regression model. Yi is equal to beta naught plus beta 1 x, beta 1 xy, x1, sorry, it is not xi. Yi. So yi means y1, y2, y3, etc. of the sample. Dependent variable, population, intercept term, slope coefficient, independent variable, etc. What do you mean by that slope? And then what is the meaning of intercept term and all? Any idea? Basic mathematics idea? So when you take the x and y axis, that means you are shifting the origin, then it becomes the interceptor. So how does it matter? So look here, if you take like this one, this is x value and this is a y value, scatter plot. If you take like this one, this is an origin. Correct? So in this case, intercept term is 0. So directly we are taking the value from here. Suppose if we take, so from here, then this point is taken as the intercept term and this is taken as a slope. The slope indicates that the change, movement in the positive or a negative direction, downward or upward, and to how much, how fast they are increasing, etc. That is what is the meaning of beta 1. Okay, so this distance, what you have to check. There is an intercept term. So that is what explaining. So that is what so this is the population regression model. So the most important for any statistics students is to understand the model is always corresponding to population. Okay, and we have to estimate that population model with the help of the sample data. So when you it is same thing. It is a random error. Here is a standard error only in statistics we are taking. No, but that is a little different. The error is almost same. Error is a disturbance term is what I am talking here is that something apart from the influence of phase, there is something, other things are there. They are considered as error. That is the external factors are there. That is influencing the sales. Now, what is the objective in statistical analysis? Our interest is to minimize this error because we have taken that how the advertising effect is influencing the sales. We are very much worried about that. So obviously what you have to do, we have to make this one as 0. If you make 0, then you can easily say that for this much of advertising expenditure, this is the corresponding sales. There is no other external factor affecting the sales other than advertising expenditure. But that cannot happen. So you cannot make it to 0. Our objective is to minimize this error. As much as possible, we have to minimize that external factor. Then we can come to a conclusion that for the change of X, there is so much of change in Y. Otherwise, always you think that along with the change of X, because of change in epsilon error also, there is a change of Y. And this epsilon we don't know. So our objective is always to minimize this error. Okay, so how to minimize this error? That is the question. How to minimize this error? And that will, by minimization of error concept is there, that will help you the estimate of this population parameters beta naught and beta 1. We require a mathematical equations to estimate this beta naught and beta 1. How do we get that one? By minimizing this error sum of square. Okay, and that method is called the method of least square. We are applying the method of least square to minimize the error sum of square so that we are able to estimate beta naught and beta 1 value. Okay, so look here. Suppose if this is a line, the line moving, straight line, then if all the values fall on the same line, there will be no error. But some of them will be more, some of them will be less. So the difference, whatever the distance is there, no, this side and this side like this way, this is called the error term. Okay, so we have to minimize this error. That is the object. See, for example, one student, I'll say that he will score 75 marks. But actually when the result comes, he scores only 70. So there is an error in my estimation. How much the difference? There is a 5. For another student, I estimated he would score 65. but he scored 70. How much is again error? 5. But in the earlier case, it was a -5. Now it is a +5. So that means the direction is there. I am not worried about the direction. Whether it is a from here to here or here to here, I am not worried about the direction. I am interested only in the magnitude. How much is the total error? So my objective is to minimize that error. And that method is called the method of least square. Okay. So I'll stop at this stage today. And because the time you have the next session also. So once you understand this initial class, I'm going very slowly. And the remaining models is more or less same. That means whenever you use the word called the estimation, then what is the meaning of a method of least squares, etc. The other things you can easily understand that they are also estimation procedure, but the estimation technique may be different. But the concept is same. What is the meaning of estimation? What is the meaning of estimator, etc., etc. Everything is same. So only the techniques may be different. Therefore, I am going with the first two models, linear regression and the multiple regression slowly. Then afterwards we can do. The remaining models will go fast. Is that okay? So go through up to here and let us continue of this linear regression later on in the next class and extension of it in a multiple linear regression. There are so many things are there. Just before using any model, we have to check these assumptions. Then we have to do the validation of the model. Many things are there. I'll continue in the next class. Okay. Thank you very much.